Hello and welcome to another Reaconteur video, and in today's video I'll be going over everything wrong with the game Sorcery, the Jujutsu Kaisen game on Roblox. Make sure to subscribe since only about 20% of the people watching right now are actually subscribed. And also I'm currently live on Twitch, so drop in there once you're done with this video. And now let's get straight into it. Alright, so I've had a bit of fun with Sorcery, but it's got a lot of issues in testing right now, so hopefully the devs see this video and use it as a way to improve the game, because there are a lot, and I mean a lot of issues, which you can probably tell by how long this video is. First of all, the combat is fine, but many hitboxes are extremely terribly awful, and other moves are just terribly balanced. First of all, the time difference between a critical and an M1 attack isn't higher than the difference in time that your parry window is up when you press F after getting parried. Basically what this means is that if you try to predict a parry and punish it with your crit, so if you M1, get parried, parry their next attack, and then immediately crit, they can press F on the same timing and they will always parry your crit perfectly, which is stupid. If you don't purposely mistime it, then your crit's just going to get parried, punishing you harder for just using your crit. And this is really annoying because every game other than Deep Woken seems to mess this up by making their games crits too fast. But making them too fast actually makes them way worse than they should be as a critical. It's supposed to be mistimed in comparison to an M1 to bait out people who are just spamming parry for M1s, which is why criticals are supposed to be slower. As for hitboxes though, they're also pretty bad. Black Flash, for example, is the worst extreme scenario of this. Since the Black Flash hitbox is just your fist, which you use to punch with Black Flash or whatever weapon you have, you need to space it properly, otherwise you'll just miss. If you're too close, it goes through the opponent that you're trying to hit with Black Flash. Like, this is a constant thing. You can't be too close to land a Black Flash. And if you're too far, obviously it misses. But the Black Flash hitbox has no hitbox on your body or the rest of your arms, so they pretty much have to be right at the edge of your fist for you to land it. It's really dumb. And then the opposite of this problem is Limitless Lapse Blue, which the non-max Lapse Blue, it just looks like 5 times bigger than it is, which is honestly deserved for reasons I'll talk about later, because Limitless is one of the 2 dumbest things in this entire game. But the hitbox on this thing is super inconsistent, and personally I don't use Limitless, I do use Idle Transfiguration, but I have used Limitless, and I still can't figure out what the normal blue hitbox looks like. It's just really confusing, which that's probably why nobody uses it once they unlock max. Speaking of hitboxes though, Idle Transfiguration's touch has a really tiny hitbox, and it's worse than my base M1's despite being a skill, which is a little bit weird. I feel like any M1 or like any sort of punch-based technique should at least have a hitbox equal to what your M1s look like, because, you know, my fists are going the same direction, so they really shouldn't be missing, which is why Black Flash and the Idle Transfiguration touch should both be at least on par with M1s, but they just aren't. So I'll miss some of them while standing inside of someone, which is just infuriating because I deserve to land it. Unlike Black Flash, though, the Idle Transfiguration Soul Touch at the very least has a hitbox on your arm and body, so if you're too close, you'll still hit it, which is surprising given the Black Flash hitbox. Now, about more balancing stuff, well, first of all, there is none. There's no balancing. The balancing is terrible, and there's clear favoritism towards certain techniques. Limitless, Gojo's technique, and Shrine, Sukuna's technique, have the most moves in the game while also being extremely powerful. Like, if this game's scaling was supposed to be kind of like Sparking Zero, as in where it's accurate to the source material of the manga and the anime, they did a great job, because Projection Sorcery and Boogie Woogie both have 1 move, while Limitless and Shrine both have like 5, including the red and blue max versions that you get for upgrading them to level 5. And then the moves that you get from using Sukuna's fingers. This is also the only Jujutsu Kaisen game I've ever seen that has managed to make Idle Transfiguration mid-tier. Like, I didn't even think that was possible, because when you really look at the core of Mahito's abilities, they are potentially the strongest technique in the entire series of Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, they're easily top 3. And somehow it ended up mid-tier in this game, and worse than stuff like Disaster's Flames. I still use it because it's fun though, and I don't really care that much, but it's just like a weird observation. Anyway, the whole crippling system is really dumb and way too poorly designed with the way that Reverse Curse technique works. Shrine specifically abuses this a lot, because with Cleave and Dismantle, they're more likely to chop off limbs since they're very sharp. Makes sense, right? Well, sometimes you'll be fine, and other times you'll lose both your arms in 2 hits, and you're basically just out of the fight from there. And then for some reason, Reverse Curse technique's output is almost entirely drained from regenerating one of your arms, so if you lose your arms again after and don't deal enough damage to get your RCT back, then you'll just lose the fight. And a little bit of a side note, but can we let special grades do the culling games against other special grades? I'm sure it would be a lot more fun with people being less scared since there's nothing to lose. Right now, culling games is really bad, but it's not really the fault of the developers, it's the fault of the community because everyone's too scared to die in culling games since they're trying to get through the level cap. But if you just let special grades do it against other special grades, I'm sure there'd be less of this because then people would just be doing it for fun, which is why people wouldn't run as much. much, which I'll talk more about running later. But back to poor balancing and the techniques. There's not really much you can do about people who run and spam moves behind them. If you don't have more cursed energy than someone, you just can't outrun them. Since dash and your flash steps depend on your cursed energy levels, if you don't have as much as someone, you just can't chase them effectively. And there's not a whole lot of anti-running measures in the game. When your health gets low enough, you start moving slower, but if you just run before you're under that threshold of around 20 to 25%, then you can easily keep distance between you and an opponent. It would be way better if they made the speed loss scale with health, so the person with more health in a fight is always faster, making it harder for someone who's lower to run, because that's just boring and annoying, and it would be way better if people were more so forced to fight instead of running for 20 minutes in the mode that they're going to die in anyway. And then there's the people who run and spam moves backwards. I really can't complain about this. They're actually really easy to counter. All you gotta do is parry or dodge it, but you guys are just annoying. Anyway, back to talking about the clear technique favoritism. Can we get some more moves for other techniques? Projection Sorcery has one move. We see Naobito do like 3 things with his technique in the show. You could have at least 3 moves in the arsenal, those being the frame trap that he uses on Dagon, the high speed movement he uses with like the frame ability. For example, like they could just make it where you use a technique, right? You maybe like move your mouse or make a path or something, and then you cross it, making it like a really fast traversal technique, and you could use it to flank people or get away or get into fights really fast, and that would be pretty good. And then the glass pane break could also be a move, and that would do like extra damage, and you could use it to do more damage to people who fall for the frame trap. Boom, 3 moves for the set, and you guys could have just used what I came up with right now based on just the anime. And then there's Boogie Woogie. You could have a move where you imbue a pebble or something with curse energy and teleport after throwing it. You could follow this up with another semi-auto tracking move that does the same thing and ends it with a punch for follow-ups. You can make a move that switches other people instead of just you by making it so you select the move and it highlights one person, do it again on someone else, and then it swaps them as long as they're still in range. It's literally so easy, and you guys didn't even make uninspired movesets, you just didn't make movesets. There's one thing to at least like make a super uninspired boring moveset, but then there's another thing to just not even try despite the clear source material. And if you guys wanted to, you could just look at other Jujutsu Kaisen games and even Battlegrounds games and take moves from there as ideas, and it would work, but you guys just can't seem to do that, I guess. And not only that, but some of the inputs in this game are terrible. First of all, does anyone actually use the cursed energy parry? I doubt it. I know I don't, because pressing E and F is just really hard to do, and it's super annoying, so it's just not worth the benefit. In fact, it's also worse because knocking someone away from you after you parry them just, you know, gives them the ability to escape, so it's not really that good. Because how am I going to parry you and then now I can't follow up with an attack? That's stupid. Along with that, Domain, Simple Domain, and Black Flash are needlessly annoying to use. I have to spam 6, which I have 12 mouse buttons, so 6 in my hotbar is what I have on Black Flash. Why do I have to spam E and 6 at the same time to use Black Flash just for it to miss anyway? And it's the same process for Simple Domain and Domain Expansion when you guys could have just made it a button press. You simply wanted to be different and make the cursed energy charging with E actually matter, but nobody even uses it unless they are forced to, and nobody would use it if they didn't have to because it sucks. If you guys wanted to make cursed energy charging matter, then take a look at Rogue Lineage's mana bar and do something more similar to that then. What's currently in the game is bad. I don't want to hold E to have a quarter-second window to press an input for my Black Flash or for anything else. It's stupid. Let me hold E, let the cursed energy charge linger for a few seconds, and then that's my window to simply press 6, which is my Black Flash bind for the move, for it to miss anyway because it sucks. In Rogue Lineage, you look at the mana, you hold it E, it's all the way up, and then you get like 2 seconds. That's a pretty good window that would allow you to input whatever you needed to. In this game, it's you hold E and you do the input, otherwise it's just not going through. And usually it's not even hold E and do the input, you kind of just have to press E and the input at the same time. And a good example of this is Curse Sense. Pressing E and end on my keyboard at the same time sucks. I can't do that with one hand very effectively unless I take my fingers off the movement keys, and then I don't really want to, you know, take my hand off the mouse. Why do I have to press E and N? Maybe just N would be fine, because then I can move my thumb over there, but E and N is stupid. Can we get rid of that? They simply made you hold E to do things because they want to be different and use cursed energy, because it's a remnant of their old system, which was terrible, where you had a cursed energy reservoir that would fill your bar, and then the reservoir filled passively, and then the bar was used to use your moves. The old cursed energy system was terrible, and this is just a remnant of that terrible system that they kept in the game. And also, Golden Ratio, crazy underrated technique. Dragon Bone Ratio crit does like a quarter of my health, and I was special grade when I last fought that. So it's really strong, but it's kind of just overshadowed by the fact that things from like Shrine and Limitless are doing a quarter of your health for less effort, and they don't require a specific build. I don't think those don't need a nerf. They do need a nerf, but so does Golden Ratio. It's just underrated, and it's significantly weaker than those, so people don't really look at it that much. Now, let's talk about the stat point system. It's absolutely terrible. In this game, 5 points in a stat equates to 1 point of whatever that stat increases. So 5 points in Cursed Energy gives you 1 point of Cursed Energy, and 5 points in Vitality gives you 1 point of health. Why does it work like this? Who signed off on this? If I put 4 points into a stat, I expect 4 points of progress, not 0 points of progress, and then 1 point of progress from the 5th point. This is stupid. If I put less than 5 points in a stat, I should be able to have the benefit of those lesser points so I can more freely mix up my stat points rather than being forced to put points in multiples of 5. It's stupid. This is especially dumb because this system only works better for special grades. If you're level 83, then you have 3 useless stat points until you get to level 85. And it repeats this way where you only actually get any stronger every 5 levels, instead of every level like it should be, like it works in every video game ever made. Rework your stupid stat system. Whoever thought 5 points to a point of upgrade would be a good idea, fire them. And along with this, get to nerfing some of the strength moves. Shoulder bash. If I parry Shoulder Bash, I should get the opportunity to punish it, but because the momentum isn't completely cancelled upon parrying, Shoulder Bash will go against me, I parry it, and they actually get the frame lock advantage, meaning if I parry a Shoulder Bash, my enemy actually gets a chance to hit me, forcing me to parry again or dodge away. Bad game design. If I parry Shoulder Bash, it should stop my opponent in front of me and give me the chance to hit him, rather than giving him the chance to spam any range moves he has, which he definitely does because he's using Limitless or Shrine. Anyway, let's tear into the various missions. The designs for these is maybe the dumbest thing ever. So, as a sorcerer, I have a sorcerer POV. I have not played Curse since the old playtest, where there were no real missions, other than like PvP and killing. Anyway, you guys give me 700 seconds to kill 3 Cursed Spirits on one of the 3 or 4 random maps. But then I get 300 seconds, less than half the time, to save 3 wildly spread out hostages from groups of like 9 Cursed Spirits. You guys are giving me half the time to do 4 times the work. 700 seconds isn't needed to kill 3 Cursed Spirits, but it's fine to have because it just gives you the leisure and time to do things at your own pace. But if I want to do the hostage mission to completion and kill all the Cursed Spirits, depending on the map, I just can't. The Ruins map, for example, is too big and too topographical for me to do that because there's too many cliffs to climb. I can't find and carry the 3 hostages down the huge mountain and kill all the Cursed Spirits in that time frame. It's just not possible in the time that they give you. Change the timer based on the map and give more time for the hostage quest in general, or just remove the timer. Why am I being timed for these dumb missions? It doesn't make sense. These, like, they're not worth timing. It doesn't make it harder, it's just annoying. It would maybe be passable, like, if the timer were, like, massive, like the 700 seconds we get. But why are you making the longer quest have less than half the timer of killing 3 enemies versus save the 3 hostages and then kill 9 Cursed Spirits? And I know you don't have to kill the Cursed Spirits, but I want to get as much EXP as possible out of it. The hostage mission, if done to completion, gives you more EXP than anything else. So I want to do it to completion if I'm progressing, but you guys just don't give me the ability to, and it's stupid. And I mean, you can on certain maps, like the sand dunes or whatever, you can do it on that map, but the ruins you just can't do it on. It's really inconsistent. And I'll talk more about why I hate some of the maps later. And don't even get me started on the Cursed Object quest. This one just sucks. It would maybe be passable if it spawned waves of enemies and I had to play around the box while fighting as like a weird win condition. That could be unique and cool. But no, you just spam G for 2 minutes straight. This quest fucking sucks. And then the only quest I would ever want to do, the extermination one, is exceedingly rare as a sorcerer, meaning I only ever got to do it once. And the one time I did, the game updated and reset the servers, so I didn't even get the rewards from it. It sucks. Oh, and also, apparently, the funny thing about the extermination mission, right? The level requirement for being targeted by an exterminator is super low. So grade 3s are getting targeted against like special grade 1s in some scenarios because the quest has no proper requirements or level scaling and tracking on it. It's insane how lazily they did that. And then on top of that, this game's dumbass scammer owner keeps on scamming, because I try to pay 50 essence to get myself a shiesty and I can't. He got outed for scamming a year ago and decided to stay to his roots and include at least one more scam in this game, being the way the mask just takes your money. You just can't have a mask in this game. It takes your money and you don't get it back. And has the lead dev ever even heard of quality of life? There's so much dumb shit in this game, it makes me angry. My hotbar's miscellaneous stuff doesn't always save, meaning if I have open slots in my hotbar and then I have random items in my inventory, upon rejoining a server, sometimes they'll fill my hotbar when I don't want it there. And then, the already nearly useless clothing items don't offer a comparison or region menu. So I can't see what items take up what regions or the stats in comparison to what I'm already wearing. So I need to keep on switching between and reading the stats to see what's getting overtaken and which piece of gear I'm equipping is better. And then you have to go all the way back to the menu for the server list because they didn't add a server list built in. And then the quick join option, you have to scroll all the way down for it. Why don't you just put a button at like below the UI for quick join? I don't care if the game is in testing. There's so much dumb garbage that exists in this game. And one thing that like definitely doesn't exist is QOL, quality of life, because the entire game is wildly inconvenient. And speaking of inconvenience, the menus kind of suck. They like the click regions of all the menu buttons are too small. Why do I have to move my mouse around the sell button to actually sell the goblet in my inventory? The button is bigger than the region you get to click in, and then it's inconsistent too. Like, why is this button moving around? Why am I playing a little maze to click this button in this stupid sell box of the shop thing? And I know you guys probably want me to mention the parkour for your curse technique, but I actually had fun with that, and the big glowing ball that makes that weird sound when you find it is funny, because I started laughing at it because I thought it sounded like big interdimensional back shots. I'm sorry, that was really dumb, but that's actually what I started laughing at when I first got there. And I know people are going to complain, oh, why do you have to do parkour for your thing? I remember when Yuji used parkour to get his domain, and it's like, shut up. The entire point of like unique systems like this, like doing parkour for this, and then how in Type Soul you do parkour for your partial res, is that it's supposed to be unique to the user. In the like technical lore of these games, it's like there's only one real player character, which is why everyone does the same quests, which is why it's like you're doing the same thing, because the player character is just meant to manifest their strength in that way. So stop complaining about that stuff being non-lore accurate when there really isn't a lore accurate way to do it, since it's supposed to be different for every person. Anyway, back to the complaining. Simple domain just sucks. It doesn't really counter domains that well since it's hard to outlast a domain, so it's basically useless. So I really hope they buff it or rework it. And an idea I had for this, which devs take notes, I'm better at balancing than you, is make it a mini radius around you where the domain's effects just don't work. So once you use it, you're in the domain and there's a radius around you, slightly bigger than what it looks like now, and that like it just you're confined into that space as a trade-off for nullifying the domain's sure hit effect. So you're still at a disadvantage, but you're not just going to instantly die because of like whatever domain they hit you with. And why are Sukuna's fingers like useless? They're only usable for two techniques. Worst case, the devs could have made it so eating them without Shrine or Copy would have like a chance to make it so you got a cursed energy boost from eating them, kind of like how cursed objects work in the show and manga. We see people eating them to get slightly stronger, and they could have done this instead of making them useless without Shrine or Copy and making one of the 3 legendary drops useless for 80% of the game. Why not just make it a universal buff if you use them and a specialized buff for the Shrine and Copy techniques along with it? That would have made them actually useful for most people. And speaking of this game's combat and techniques, some moves just don't belong in parry-based games. Hollow Purple and Fuga, for example, are terribly done. It is a parry-based game, where Fuga and Hollow Purple are basically unavoidable if the person using them is at all decent. Since the moves do a ton of damage, and depending on the user's aim, with no possible counterplay, if the person is good enough, meaning at a certain point, Hollow Purple and Fuga become unavoidable, massive bursts of damage. Accurate to the show and manga, bad balancing nonetheless, and they don't really belong in a video game. So I just nerf these moves or rework them or something. And there's also no endgame content, which if you don't know, because you're not a tester, endgame content was promised 2 playtests ago. The last time I played was like 4 or 5 playtests ago when the game first came into testing, but I've heard a lot of the testers talking about how 2 playtests ago we were promised endgame content, and there is still none. And also the accessory buffs are god-awful, whichever dev made them is dumb. Some of them give like 0.1 of a stat up, which is so insanely useless, but the funny thing is that they round down. So even if 0.1 gave you a benefit, an accessory with less than 1 of a stat gives you 0 buffs to the stat. Why does this even exist? And then the domains kind of just are legit reskins, like Chimera Shadow Garden and Coffin of the Iron Mountain, which doesn't even make sense. They outright both do the exact same thing with different effects, which doesn't even make sense, because in the manga and anime, Megami's domain made it so his Shikigami just jumped whoever was in the domain on autopilot without him having to command them. So why is this a damage over time domain instead of summoning Shikigami that jump you or something? Like, that would be way cooler. And then if they did it that way, it would allow for potential counterplay by dodging and parrying the Shikigami moves along with the person you're fighting, making it not a complete brain-dead free trump card, free win for the person that uses a domain, but being a, you'll probably lose, but if you're really good at the game, then you can probably win. And it would be rewarding, and it could be like, there could be like really cool clips of someone getting like 10v1 by all the Shikigami, and then he clutches up by killing the user, you know? That could be really cool. And also, it's just the actual domain rather than a stupid damage over time weird black ink effect. It's stupid. And speaking of domain, the obtainment sucks. You meditate for 10 minutes and then knock yourself from fall damage. Wow. They would have been better off making it like Type Soul Bankai obtainment, where you fight a version of yourself or something. At least that wouldn't have been miserably boring. And the movement is sometimes good, and other times it's super buggy. Like, yeah, it works well when it works, but other times you'll be trying to climb up a wall, and because you accidentally pressed A, you turn 90 degrees and start wall running off into a void. It's dumb. Along with that, let's talk about the PvE. The cursed NPCs are extremely strong, making it super hard to fight more than one at a time without running away and snaking moves, which isn't even possible at lower grades because you don't have much skills. And then on top of that, the cursed NPCs get hyper armor moves that they can use out of their up tilts, which practically force you to eat 2 bars of damage with very little you can do, especially if you're getting jumped and there's multiple up there, because then they can stack moves. And then you can't parry. And the maps have so many death zones. There is almost no reason for there to be as many death zones as they are. Both the desert and ruins maps have death zones that you can be knocked into by enemies, or boring losers can use it to kill you in extermination missions. They have no reason to put this much lethality on verticality in these maps, or just in this game in general, which is why I really think they should scale down lots of the fall damage. And about PvP. First of all, reverse curse technique is in between too strong and too weak depending on the timing that you're using it. It's way too strong when you run away and heal with it, because it can heal like your entire health bar and like a bar and a half of cursed energy. Like, I heal really fast with it because I have a lot of cursed energy with the Okotsu clan and stuff, but it's really, really strong because of this. And then other times it's way too weak when it comes to repairing wounds and missing arms, because the way its output is gained through damage. But your capability of doing damage is way less if you lose an arm. And it's even worse if you lose your dominant arm, because then half your skills at least are disabled. Depending on your build and all weapon skills, they could just be completely unusable because you lost the arm that uses your weapon. And then the parry-based game makes it so where skill spam is the dominant and better playstyle in most fights. For some reason, skill spam is just the best way to play because of how strong the skills are in this game. And then also, reverse curse techniques unlock is just kind of lame. You just do the culling games. What if they just like added a cool like non-canon quest or something? Like, what if you start the quest, right, where you lose your arm? That's the beginning of the quest, or you have to lose your arm to start the quest. And now you're like going on a journey to get it back or something after losing it. So you temporarily replace it with a prosthetic, and you have to go through like trials and stuff to learn how to unlock the reverse curse technique. And at the end of it, you get your arm back in the reverse curse technique. That would be cool. But guess what? These devs aren't creative. They're not actually working on the game. They're just adding stuff into it and getting all the money from all the fans. So whatever you do, don't buy anything. No, I'm joking. If you want to buy things, then feel free to do it. I personally wouldn't, because there's a lot of stuff I really don't like in this game, which is why this is a long video. But look, ideally, the devs will see this video, implement a lot of these changes, improve the game. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Shoutouts to Goobka, Cyberboy21, and Jersey Drake fan. If I missed anything that you guys hate about the game, let me know about it. I love you all, and goodbye.